Commander Kim Day stared at the holographic display showing their destination. The blue dot representing Kepler-44, to be pulsed weekly against the darkness of space. For 3 weeks, desperate messages had been streaming from the human colony there. Men, women, and children, trapped under the ruthless assault of the Vorthok Empire. Distance to target? Day asked, his voice steady, despite the weight on his shoulders. Navigation Officer Park Min checked his instruments. 2 hours until we reach the outer system, sir. Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures. It looks like the bombardment is still ongoing. Day closed his eyes briefly. Behind his rescue vessel, the Harmony, stretched a convoy of 49 other ships, each one packed with medical supplies, emergency food rations, and most importantly, evacuation pods. 50,000 pods in total, enough to save every soul on Kepler-4 for 2B, if they could just get close enough. The crews aboard these ships were not soldiers. They were doctors, engineers, teachers, and volunteers. People who had heard the colony's desperate pleas and chose to risk everything to help. Day had seen their faces during the briefings, fear mixed with determination. They all knew the Vorthok reputation for brutality. Sir, should we power up defensive systems? Asked Tactical Officer Kim Jun from his station. No, Day replied firmly. We are a humanitarian mission. The moment we arm ourselves, we become combatants in their eyes. Our only protection is international law. Dr. Lee Su looked up from her medical tablet, where she had been reviewing emergency procedures. Her team of 300 doctors and nurses were spread across the rescue fleet, ready to treat wounded colonists the moment they came aboard. Commander, what if they don't recognize our status? She asked quietly. Every civilized species in the galaxy recognizes the neutrality of medical and rescue vessels, Day answered. Even the Vorthok follow basic rules of engagement. They're brutal, but they're not monsters. Park Min's console began beeping rapidly. Sir, we're approaching the hyperspace exit point, preparing to drop into normal space. Day straightened in his command chair. All ships, maintain formation. Broadcasting humanitarian identification on all frequencies. Remember, we are here to save lives, nothing more. The stars shifted as the rescue fleet dropped out of hyperspace. What they saw made everyone on the bridge fall silent. Kepler-4 for to be hung before them like a dying ember. The once green and blue world now glowed with the angry red of plasma fires. Massive Vorthok dreadnoughts, each one the size of a city, surrounded the planet in a loose formation. Streams of energy poured from their weapons, turning entire continents into burning wastelands. My God, whispered Dr. Lee Su. How many people are still alive down there? Park Min worked frantically at his scanner station. I'm detecting scattered life signs in the northern continent. Maybe 20,000 survivors. But the readings are fading fast. Day activated the fleet-wide communication system. All rescue vessels, this is Commander Day. Begin emergency evacuation procedures. Medical teams prepare for massive casualties. We have maybe 6 hours before there's nothing left to save. The Harmony's communication officer, Lieutenant Cho, Ben, looked up with confusion. Sir, I'm broadcasting our humanitarian status on all frequencies, but the Vorthok ships aren't responding. Keep trying, Day ordered. Use the standard galactic emergency codes. Make it clear we are not combatants. On the main screen, the Vorthok dreadnoughts continued their systematic destruction. Each pulse of their weapons erased another city, another 1,000 lives. The rescue fleet moved closer, their engines straining to reach the planet before it was too late. Dr. Lee Su checked her equipment one final time. Evacuation pods are ready for immediate deployment. My medical teams are standing by. If we can get those survivors off the surface, we can have them in medical care within an hour. Sir, Park Min called out, I'm reading energy spikes from the Vorthok vessels. It looks like they're charging additional weapons systems. Day frowned. They must be preparing for a final bombardment. We need to move faster. Lieutenant Chobin tried again on the emergency frequencies. Vorthok vessels, this is the Earth Rescue Fleet. We are conducting humanitarian operations under galactic law. We request safe passage to evacuate civilian survivors. Silence filled the bridge as they waited for a response. The only sound was the steady beeping of the life support systems and the distant hum of the engines, pushing them toward the dying world. Still no response, sir, Cho Bin reported. Day made his decision. Continue approach. They have to see our markings. Every ship in our fleet clearly displays the red cross of medical vessels. No military force attacks, rescue ships. The convoy pressed forward, 50 vessels carrying the hopes of the dying colonists below. In a few hours, they would learn that hope was not enough against an enemy that saw mercy as weakness and compassion as a target for destruction. Admiral Krall stood on the command deck of his massive warship, watching the approaching human vessels through the main viewing screen. His reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. The Earth ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls painted white with large red crosses clearly visible even at this distance. Pathetic, Krall muttered to his tactical officer. Look how they approach. No weapons powered, no defensive formations. They actually believe their mercy will protect them. The tactical officer, a younger Vorthok named Vex, checked his readings. Admiral, they are broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. They claim to be medical and evacuation vessels only. No military escort detected. Krall's laugh was a harsh, grating sound. Medical vessels. How convenient. They think we are fools, sir. Their transmissions appear genuine. They are requesting safe passage to evacuate survivors from the planet below. I see their sensor arrays, Vex. I see their advanced communication systems. Perfect for gathering intelligence about our fleet positions and weapon capabilities. Krall's voice grew colder. These humans are clever. They send spies disguised as healers. Vex hesitated. Admiral, galactic law clearly states that medical vessels are neutral in all conflicts. Even we have signed those agreements. Galactic law, Krall spat, made by weak species who cannot defend themselves. The strong make their own laws. He turned to face his weapons officer. Target the lead vessels. Prepare to fire. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Harmony, Commander Kim Dae watched the scanner readings with growing concern. The Vorthok ships had stopped their bombardment of the planet and were now turning toward the rescue fleet. Sir, they're still not responding to our humanitarian broadcasts, Lieutenant Chobin reported. I've tried every emergency frequency. Dr. Li Su moved closer to Dae's command chair. Commander, something feels wrong. Why aren't they acknowledging us? Maybe they're busy with their attack on the planet, Dae replied, though doubt crept into his voice. Keep broadcasting our status. Make sure they understand we're here to help civilians. Navigation Officer Park Min suddenly looked up from his station, his face pale. Sir, the Vorthok ships are moving into attack positions around us. That can't be right, Dae said. Check your readings again. Sir, I'm detecting weapons lock from multiple Vorthok vessels. They're targeting our ships. The bridge fell silent, except for the steady beeping of the instruments. Dr. Li Su grabbed Dae's arm. This isn't possible. No one attacks medical ships. It's against every law of civilized warfare. Before Dae could respond, Admiral Krall's voice echoed across the bridge as a message came through their communication system. His words were spoken in broken but understandable human language. Human vessels, you have entered a combat zone. Your presence here violates our military operations. Dae quickly activated the response channel. Admiral Krall. This is Commander Kim Dae of the Earth Rescue Fleet. We are conducting humanitarian operations under galactic emergency protocols. We request safe passage to evacuate civilian survivors. There was a long pause before Krell's voice returned, filled with mockery. Humanitarian operations? How touching. You humans always hide behind your weakness and call it virtue. We are clearly marked as medical vessels, Day insisted. Our only mission is to save lives. Your only mission is to spy on our fleet and report back to Earth Command, Krell replied. We will not allow it. The first strike came without warning. The rescue ship Compassion, positioned at the front of the formation, suddenly exploded in a ball of orange fire. The shockwave from the blast shook every other vessel in the fleet. Emergency protocols. Day shouted as alarms began screaming throughout the bridge. All ships scatter. Break formation and try to reach safe distance. But Admiral Krell had planned this carefully. His ships had moved into a perfect encirclement during their approach. There was nowhere for the rescue vessels to run. Parkman's voice was barely audible over the chaos. Sir, the Hope is taking direct hits. She's breaking apart. Through the main screen, Day watched in horror as another rescue ship, the Unity, tried desperately to escape the trap. Vorthok weapons fire followed it like deadly lightning, tearing through its civilian hull as if it were made of paper. They have families aboard those ships, Dr. Lee Su screamed. Children, medical staff. Day's hands moved frantically over his control panel, broadcasting emergency message to all human colonies. Tell them what's happening here. Tell them the Vorthok are attacking medical vessels. The Harmony shuddered as weapons fire struck its port side. Sparks flew from damaged systems, and the lights flickered. Through the smoke, Day could see that 43 rescue ships had already been destroyed. 43 ships full of doctors, nurses, engineers, and volunteers who had come here only to save lives. Sir, we're losing life support, Park Min called out. Dr. Lee Su looked at Day with tears in her eyes. The evacuation pods for the colonists. 50,000 people were counting on us. As plasma fire tore through the bridge of the Harmony, Day managed one final transmission to Earth. Tell them what they did to us. Tell them we came in peace. Within minutes, 47 rescue ships floated dead in space. Of the 50,000 people who had volunteered for the Mercy mission, only 3 damaged escape pods made it to the outer system. The survivors inside would carry the terrible truth back to Earth. Admiral Krell watched the destruction with satisfaction, not knowing he had just signed the death warrant of his entire species. President Chowan sat alone in his private office, staring at the datapad in his trembling hands. The recording had arrived 3 hours ago, transmitted by the only survivors of the rescue fleet. The shaky footage showed everything in horrible detail. The white medical ships exploding one by one. The desperate voices of doctors and nurses, calling for help. The Vorthok weapons tearing through vessels marked with the Red Cross of Mercy. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Defense Minister Yoon Hae entered quietly, his face grave. He had been waiting outside for the president to finish watching the evidence. How many people were on those ships? Chowan asked without looking up from the pad. 47,000. Sir, Yoon Hae replied, his voice barely above a whisper. 300 medical teams, 5,000 engineers, rescue specialists, and 20,000 volunteers. Most of them had families. Chowan closed his eyes and set down the datapad. The numbers felt unreal. 47,000 people who had volunteered to risk their lives, saving strangers. People who believed that mercy was humanity's greatest strength. Dr. Kim So-young was on the medical ship Compassion, Yoon Hae continued. She had developed the cure for Martian fever last year, saved millions of lives. Her daughter just started university. Stop, Chowan said quietly. He stood and walked to the large window that looked out over Seoul. The city stretched endlessly before him, millions of lights twinkling in the evening darkness. Each light represented families, children, people living peaceful lives because humanity had chosen peace over war. For 3 centuries, Earth had followed a simple philosophy. When other species fought, humans offered to help negotiate peace. When planets faced disasters, human rescue fleets arrived first. When diseases spread across the galaxy, human doctors worked day and night to find cures. It was what made them proud to be human. Sir Yunhei said carefully, "The Galactic Council is demanding answers. They want to know how we will respond to this attack on medical vessels." Chowan continued, staring out the window. In the distance, he could see the lights of the spaceport, where families were probably still waiting for news about their loved ones on the rescue mission. Soon, he would have to tell them that their children, parents, and friends were never coming home. "What would you recommend, Minister?" he asked. "Diplomatic, protests, economic sanctions, maybe a limited military response to their border worlds." Yunhei paused. "The usual steps for this kind of incident." "This kind of incident," Chowan repeated slowly. "Is this usual, Minister? Do civilized species normally murder medical workers?" "No, sir. This is unprecedented. But we must be careful not to escalate. Activate Protocol Omega," Chowan said, his voice cutting through the room like ice. The defense minister's face went completely white. "Sir, that's total war authorization. We haven't activated Protocol Omega since the colony wars 300 years ago." Chowan turned away from the window to face his cabinet members who had been quietly entering the room. Foreign Minister Park Da, Science Advisor Dr. Hanmi, Intelligence Director Li Jun. All of them looked shocked at his words. "The Empire has made their position clear," he said to the room. "They see our mercy as weakness. They see our doctors as targets. They see our children as acceptable casualties." Dr. Hanmi stepped forward. "Mr. President, perhaps if we tried diplomatic contact first. Maybe this was a misunderstanding. Chowan picked up the datapad and activated the recording. The room filled with the sound of Dr. Li Su's voice screaming as plasma fire tore through the medical bay. "Does this sound like a misunderstanding?" The room fell silent. Foreign Minister Park Da looked at her hands. "Sir, if we activate Protocol Omega, there's no going back. It means total mobilization. It means we transform our entire civilization into a war machine. The Vorthok have killed our children, our healers, our hope," Chowan said. His voice was calm, but everyone in the room could hear the fury beneath it. Now they will learn what humanity becomes when mercy is met with murder. Within an hour, the orders went out across the human colonies. Admiral Song Jae, the hero of the colony wars, was pulled from his retirement on Luna and given emergency command of all Earth forces. The old man had spent 30 years teaching young officers that war should always be the last option. Now he was being asked to make it the only option. "Sir," his new aide Captain Nambo reported as they stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's capital. "All human worlds have confirmed receipt of the mobilization order. The shipyards are converting from civilian to military production. Science teams are being reassigned to weapons development." Admiral Song Jae looked at the holographic display showing the known galaxy. Red dots marked every Vorthok world, every military base, every population center. Intelligence had been mapping their empire for decades, just in case this day ever came. "Sir, what are our primary objectives?" Captain Nambo asked. Song Jae's answer was simple and terrifying. "There will be no objectives, Captain. There will be no negotiations, no territory to claim, no prisoners to take." He paused, looking at the red dots that represented billions of Vorthok lives. "We're not going to defeat them. We're going to erase them." The age of human mercy was over. The age of human vengeance had begun. The Vorthok Empire had ruled through fear for over 2 centuries. Their massive fleets had crushed the peaceful Zalani people, enslaved the mining colonies of Arcturus, and turned dozens of worlds into tribute-paying vassals. Every species in their territory knew the simple rule: submit or die. It had always worked. Admiral Krell sat in his command center on Vorthok Prime, reviewing the daily reports from across the Empire. Border raids on weak neighbors, tribute collections from subject worlds, the usual business of maintaining control through strength. The destruction of the human rescue fleet 3 days ago had been just another small victory, hardly worth remembering. Then the first reports started coming in. "Admiral," his communications officer called out nervously, "we're getting strange readings from the Kepler sector. Our patrol fleet there has gone silent." Krell barely looked up from his tactical displays. "Probably equipment failure. Send a repair ship." "Sir, that's 3 patrol fleets that have gone silent today, all in different sectors." Now Krell paid attention. He walked over to the main strategic display that showed the entire Vorthok Empire. Small red lights were blinking across 17 different star systems, all indicating lost contact with military units. "Get me Admiral Voss on the Rim territories," Krell ordered. The reply came back within minutes. Admiral Voss's face appeared on the screen, but something was wrong. Behind him, Krell could see emergency lights flashing and crew members running frantically. "Admiral Krell," Voss shouted over the noise, "we're under attack. Human ships just appeared out of nowhere. They're not making any demands. They're just shooting everything." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving only static. Krell stared at the dead screen in confusion. "Human ships? That's impossible. We destroyed their rescue fleet. They should be mourning their dead, not attacking us." His intelligence officer, a thin Vorthok named Dex, approached with a datapad full of incoming reports. "Sir, the attacks are happening simultaneously across our entire border. Multiple human fleets, all appearing at the same time. What do they want? Are they demanding the return of territory? Tribute payments?" Dex's voice was shaking. "Sir, they're not making any demands at all. They're not trying to capture our worlds or take prisoners. They're just ... destroying everything." Meanwhile, light years away, Captain Lim Yu stood on the bridge of the human destroyer, Retribution, as it hung in orbit above Theta Station, a Vorthok mining colony. Below them, the space station housed 50,000 Vorthok civilians and workers. "Captain," his weapons officer reported, "we have clear targeting on the station. All weapon systems ready." Lim Yu nodded. His orders from Admiral Song Jae had been crystal clear. No Vorthok installations were to be left operational. No Vorthok ships were to escape. No Vorthok lives were to be spared. This was not conquest. This was elimination. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "the station is broadcasting surrender. They're asking for terms." "Terms?" Lim Yu's voice was cold as space itself. "Did our medical ships get offered terms when they were trying to save lives? Did the doctors and children on those rescue vessels get a chance to surrender?" The bridge fell silent. Every crew member remembered the footage from the escape pods, the images of rescue ships burning, of medical personnel dying while trying to help strangers. "Sir," the weapons officer said quietly, "they're launching evacuation pods. Civilian transports trying to flee." Lim Yu watched the small ships scatter from the doomed station like frightened insects. For a moment, he felt something that might have been doubt. Then he remembered Dr. Li Su's final transmission, her voice calling for help as plasma fire consumed the medical bay where she had been treating wounded colonists. "Target the evacuation pods first," he ordered, "then the station." Across space, the same scene played out on dozens of worlds. Human fleets appeared without warning, destroyed everything they found, and moved on. No attempts at communication, no offers of surrender accepted, no prisoners taken. On the industrial world of Vorthok 7, Admiral Zex tried desperately to understand what was happening. His defense fleet was being torn apart by human ships that fought with a precision and fury he had never seen before. "They're not fighting like any species we've encountered," he reported to Vorthok Prime. Other races fight for territory, for resources, for power. These humans, they're fighting to erase us completely. Admiral Kral watched the reports streaming in from across the Empire. Entire star systems were going dark. Military bases, civilian colonies, trading posts. Everything was being systematically destroyed. What kind of species fights this way? He asked his staff. Intelligence Officer Dex had been studying human behavior for years. Sir, I think we misunderstood them. We thought their mercy made them weak. But I'm starting to realize something terrible. Their mercy was what made them civilized. We took that away from them. What are you saying? Sir, we didn't defeat their rescue fleet. We unleashed something that has been sleeping for 300 years. Dex's voice was barely a whisper. We turned healers into killers. We turned the most merciful species in the galaxy into our executioners. As if to prove his point, another star system winked out on the strategic display. The human war machine was methodically erasing the Vorthok Empire from existence, one world at a time. Other alien species across the galaxy watched in terrified fascination as humanity revealed its true nature. Not conquerors seeking empire, but angels of death, ensuring that those who murdered the innocent would never threaten anyone again. Admiral Kral's hands shook as he gripped the command rail of his flagship. Through the main viewing screen, he could see the burning wreckage of what had once been the mighty Third Fleet of the Vorthok Empire. 17 massive warships, reduced to 12 damaged vessels, limping toward home. Admiral, human ships are pursuing us, his tactical officer reported. They're gaining fast. Kral looked at the scanner display. The human fleet behind them moved with terrifying purpose. No hesitation, no pauses to secure captured territory or tend to their own wounded. They simply followed, like death itself given form. How many ships have we lost across the Empire? Kral asked quietly. His intelligence officer checked the latest reports. 70% of our military forces are gone, sir. 43 colonies have been eliminated. No survivors from any of them. The bridge fell silent. In 3 days, an empire that had taken 2 centuries to build was being systematically erased from existence. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Vorthok Prime, the communications officer announced. The High Command wants an immediate report. Kral nodded wearily. What could he tell them? That humanity had revealed itself to be something beyond their understanding. That the species they had dismissed as weak had become their executioner. Meanwhile, Admiral Song Jae stood on the bridge of the massive human dreadnought Final Justice. The ship was 3 times larger than anything in the old Earth fleet, built in the emergency shipyards over the past month. Around it floated the combined might of humanity's war machine, 500 ships that had appeared in Vorthok's space, like an unstoppable storm. Sir, we're approaching the Vorthok homeworld, Navigation Officer Kim Bo reported. All fleet units are in position. Song Jae looked at the planet growing larger on the view screen. Vorthok Prime, home to over 2 billion members of the species, that had murdered 47,000 innocent humans. The planet that had sent the orders to destroy medical ships marked with the Red Cross of Mercy. Sir, Communications Officer Park Soo interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the planet. They're asking for terms of surrender. Song Jae's weathered face showed no emotion. No terms, sir. They're insisting on negotiations. They say they're willing to discuss reparations, territory, concessions. Open a channel to their homeworld, Song Jae ordered. Let every Vorthok hear this. The transmission went out across every frequency, reaching every communication device on Vorthok Prime. Song Jae's voice carried the weight of humanity's judgment. People of the Vorthok Empire, I am Admiral Song Jae of the Human Space Forces. 3 days ago, your military destroyed our rescue fleet. You killed 47,000 innocents who came to save lives. You murdered doctors, nurses, teachers, and volunteers whose only crime was showing mercy. On Vorthok Prime, millions listened in growing terror. In the capital city's command center, Admiral Kral had just arrived from his fleeing fleet. He stepped forward to respond. Admiral Song Jae, we were following standard military protocol. Your ships entered a combat zone without authorization. We had to assume hostile intent. They were marked as medical vessels. Song Jae's voice cut through the transmission like a blade. Every ship carried the universal symbol of medical aid. They broadcast their humanitarian mission on all frequencies. You chose to murder them anyway. Kral felt sweat running down his scaled skin. There were tactical considerations. In war, sometimes difficult decisions must be made. War. Song Jae's voice carried a coldness that made the Vorthok listening shiver. You think this is war? War has rules, Admiral Kral. War has honor. War recognizes the neutrality of those who heal the wounded. Around Vorthok Prime, the human fleet moved into final positions. No escape routes remained. Every orbital platform, every defense station, every military vessel in the system was targeted by human weapons. You wanted to show the galaxy what happens to the merciful, Song Jae continued. You thought our compassion made us weak. You believed that those who help others could be slaughtered without consequence. In the command center on Vorthok Prime, the Vorthok leaders watched their scanner displays with growing horror. The human fleet had enough firepower to turn their entire world into molten rock. Please, Admiral Kral broadcast desperately. There are civilians here. Families, children who had nothing to do with the attack on your ships. Did you think of the families when you murdered our rescue workers? Song Jae asked. Did you consider the children when you destroyed ships full of volunteers who had come to help strangers? The scanner displays showed human weapons charging to full power. Every gun, every missile system, every device of destruction the human fleet possessed was aimed at Vorthok Prime. Now, the galaxy will see what happens to those who slaughter the innocent, Song Jae said, his final words carrying across space. You have taught us that mercy is seen as weakness. Very well. There will be no more Vorthok Empire. No more of your kind to threaten others. No more species that believes compassion can be murdered without consequence. Admiral Kral understood, too late, what humanity truly was. Not warriors seeking glory or conquest, but protectors willing to become monsters to ensure that mercy could exist safely in the galaxy. They had not come to rule, they had come to eliminate a threat to all who showed kindness to others. As the final bombardment began, the last transmission from Vorthok space was silence. An empire that had ruled through fear was ended by a species that had learned to kill in defense of love. The human fleet turned toward home, their terrible work complete. Across the galaxy, every species received the same message. Those who protect the innocent are under humanity's protection, and those who harm the merciful will face extinction.